Welcome to Hey Listen, where we discuss faith, leadership, and the mission of the church. We're so glad you've joined us. Now to today's episode. Welcome back. We are so excited for another conversation, but today it is not Pastor Jeremy and I. We have Kelsey. Oh, I almost said your maiden name. Kelsey Palomino.
I had to tell somebody my maiden name the other day. They didn't know it. So,
well, too funny. Kelsey, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell about your role here at Ridgecrest, and we will jump into our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kelsey Palomino, and I am the missions minister here at Ridgecrest, and I have been here for 10 years, I think, on staff, but about 6 years in that role in particular.
Okay.
Yeah. So before that, I have a degree in environmental science and biology. That's my undergraduate. I spent 2 years living in a little bitty country called Lesotho, in between college and Ridgecrest, and then came on staff in 2016. So.
Okay, I forgot that you have an environmental science. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What was your original plan with that? Did you have something
so
specific?
strange. Nobody ever asked me this.
Oh.
No, it's good. I was planning to be like a marine biologist for freshwater. It's called a limnologist. So that was my interest, and that was what my research was in. So.
That is a fun fact about Kelsey.
So I love science. So if you ever want to talk science, I'm your girl.
You know, one time we talked about pond scum.
I would have loved to be here for that conversation.
Part 2 of the pond scum.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
We'll invite Jeremy back in
I
because
would
that
love
was
this.
way above my head. So we'll let you and Jeremy.
Oh, no. I'm not up
pond
to
scum.
that level. But okay. Accepted.
Yeah, we had a whole episode.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Anyways, let's jump into our actual conversation about Lesotho.
Sure.
So obviously this has a special place in your heart. And over the last several years has really grown in my heart. I've had the opportunity to go twice. How many times have you traveled to Lesotho?
Oh my,
Do you have an idea?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Twice before I was living there, then my 2 years. And then, I don't know, maybe 12 or maybe 12-ish, 10 to 12 times with Ridgecrest.
Okay.
So I don't know.
That's
That's an
awesome.
estimate.
Okay. So for someone who may not know anything about Lesotho or what we're doing, can you tell a little bit about like our partnership from Ridgecrest with Lesotho?
Absolutely. So a little brief history or update, information, maybe I should say, about Lesotho. If you take the continent of Africa as a whole and look at the very bottom of it, there's a country called South Africa in the very tip. Inside of that country is a small circular country. I've heard it called the donut hole of South Africa.
Yes.
Called Lesotho. It's an independent country, and it's mostly mountainous. The people are scattered in villages through the mountains, and the people are beautiful. They have a super rich culture, and they're hospitable and kind. But the Baptist mission of Lesotho has been established there for about 39 years. So there's been a missions presence there for quite some time. But about 2010, missionaries began realizing that they could not reach into all these areas of the country themselves. So they began to ask churches to adopt a valley and to take the responsibility of evangelism, discipleship, and church planting in that area.
Okay.
So in 2017, Ridgecrest accepted the call to adopt the Makhoaba Valley in Lesotho. And so since that time, we've been sending mission teams and sharing the gospel, helping believers grow in their faith, and Lord willing, maybe one day we'll have a church planted there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. So I've had the opportunity to go twice, and the first time after we had committed to go, I don't know if we had all the details, but I was telling someone, my husband was standing beside me. I was telling someone that we were going to Lesotho in South Africa, and he was like, "You realize it's a country, not part of South Africa?"
Yes,
I had no idea.
is.
I mean, we were planning to go, and I still was just like, I didn't have all of that figured out. So, but just that little spot.
Yeah,
but it is. It's such a beautiful people. This is actually our second episode. We had Claire Daly back several episodes.
Oh, yes, that's right.
After she had gone in January.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about Lesotho, but it is so dear to our hearts here at Ridgecrest. So let's talk a little bit. What makes the partnership unique or meaningful for Ridgecrest?
Yes, absolutely. So this is really our only field that does not have, I think the most unique thing is that it's our only field that doesn't have a partner living on the ground, planning the work. In every other mission trip that we send, we have a partner there, planning the work, following up after we're there, and continuing that work beyond our mission teams. And Lesotho is the only place where we don't have that. Our short-term teams are in charge of the evangelism and the discipleship and the church planting. And so Ridgecrest really as a whole is working on this together. I think another thing that is really important unique to our work in Lesotho. And I think this applies to other places as well. But because we don't have a partner there on the ground, we're really relying on and focusing on equipping national believers to continue the work. I heard a missionary say once, Jesus asks us to pray for workers to go into the harvest. And the speaker said, the workers are in the harvest. Like, we don't need to bring always workers from outside, right? We need to
equip those who are already there.
Exactly. So we're really focused on that in Lesotho, which is pretty unique. And this doesn't pertain to Ridgecrest, but it's a little bit of a fun fact. Missouri Baptists have been praying for Lesotho for 39 years. I think in 1987, the International Mission Board established the first state to missionary partnership. They were looking to send their first missionary into Lesotho, and they called upon the Missouri Baptist WMU, the Women's Missionary Union, to pray this missionary in. And so for 39 years, Missouri Baptists, particularly women Missouri Baptists, have been praying over Lesotho and over the work there.
That is incredible.
It's a really, really unique partnership for Ridgecrest, but also for Missouri Baptists.
Yes, and it is fun talking to people like Miss Kathy here on staff at Ridgecrest, who's been praying all of those 39 years for Lesotho. And so I know there are many others who have been, their hearts have been connected to Lesotho for a long time. So you did talk a little bit about that we don't have a mission partner there on the field, but tell a little bit about IMB. There are missionaries that we are connected to. They're just not in our valley. Can you share a little bit more about how that works?
Right. So there's several different missionary units through the mountains and working in different areas and different valleys. There's some in the capital, which is 5 or 6 hours maybe away from our valley. There are some in actually close to where I used to live in the country. It's in the middle of the country, and that's about an hour drive away from our valley. And then there are some more on the east where we're working, but still about an hour away from our valley. So they're all working together, for a common goal, but in different areas. So we visit those partners sometimes. Shayla Hale on staff, she has helped some of those missionaries with some orphan care initiatives in their area. But for the most part, our short-term teams are really doing the work apart from specific help from those partners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we do things to try to care for them when we go travel and stuff like that, but they're not in our field. I've gone twice and I've never seen one of our partners in Lesotho.
Oh, really?
I've seen them through travel in South Africa, but I haven't seen them in Lesotho.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, just kind of interesting because it's so different than if we're sending teams to any of our other partners.
Right, who are working
you're going
right
with
there,
a missionary.
Picking you up, working alongside of you the whole time. So.
Okay. So you're going to be, you and Shayla Hale are going to be doing a grow class. That's our Wednesday night classes, beginning April 8th. So just another couple weeks away. Tell us a little bit about the premise for that, the heart behind that grow class.
Yeah. So Ridgecrest has been talking about church planting for a couple years now. I mean, just really trying to emphasize some of those church plants that we're working with. One of those is Lesotho. And so this January, we brought that before the church, told them a little bit more about it, encouraged people to pray for that. And we can talk more about that later maybe. But so we thought that this grow class would be a great way for people to get a little bit more information about the field and what's going on there. And so we're just so excited it's about advocacy, right? Telling people about the field. The more people know and the more stories they hear, the better they're equipped to pray, right? So I think that's kind of the heart behind the class, which we're really excited about.
Okay, perfect. And so, you just shared a little bit, but what are you hoping people will walk away after being part of that class?
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I guess I say weeks ago, it was a couple months ago, I was in my prayer time in the morning and was in Joshua 1:1-9, where the Lord comes to Joshua and said, "Moses, my servant, is dead, and I'm calling you, Joshua." This is a paraphrase. I'm not quoting it exactly, but I'm calling you, Joshua, to lead all this people into the promised land. And it just really stood out to me again that God is calling Ridgecrest as a whole into the Makhoaba Valley, right? This isn't about just Kayla going or just Kayla's team going or, a couple teams going. This is about Ridgecrest as a church moving into the valley together by sending short-term teams, but also through our prayers. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that people, I think my prayer for this class is that people will come out of this class better equipped to pray. We're going to talk about like the Lesotho culture and the strategies that we're using there, which are unique to this field.
Sure.
We're going to talk about what our teams have been doing and what tools they're using to equip the people, share stories. And so I'm hoping that people come out of this class better equipped to pray and maybe even stirred to go. But mostly, I think what we need the most right now in that field is people's prayers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We hadn't really talked about this side of it. Would you be able to share a little bit? What are those tools that you're talking about? Without going into depth, we want them to come to the class, but what does that look like that makes it a little bit unique?
Yeah. If we're using a model for ministry that the IMB is using right now, called 4 Fields. And so we're walking through entry into a field, which is just like, who is this people? How do we reach them? What is their culture like? Learning about them, moving from entry to evangelism, to discipleship, to church planting, and then multiplying leaders. So we'll talk a little bit about that model. But specifically, we have a specific gospel sharing tool that we use there. You've used it, of course, the 2 Kingdoms.
Yes, I made a flannel graph for it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about this. I wish I could see like a video of that. Anyways, we can talk more about that later. So the 2 Kingdoms is our gospel sharing tool. We have some specific discipleship lessons that have been crafted for this field. So we'll talk a little bit more about those. We have some evangelistic lessons based on the 2 Kingdoms that we've been using. So there's just lots of different tools that we've tried to develop. I recently taught a lesson that, it's just scripture, right? About peace with God, peace in our heart, and peace with others. The Lesotho are always asking,
always.
You say it because
they are always asking for peace.
Yeah.
How can we pray for you? Pray for peace.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's a lesson that I'm working on right now that helps answer that question, right?
Okay.
So just we'll talk through some of those tools in the class as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so aside from going to the class and praying, how can our church family be a part of what God is doing in Lesotho?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I think for sure, and I've emphasized this already, but praying for the field. We have a daily prayer text that goes out that people can join. It comes through at 7:00. The other day it came through at 9 p.m. So
it did.
I'm sorry.
That
was probably my mistake, but they can get a prayer text at 7 a.m. every morning to pray for the Lesotho people and pray for the work in the valley. It gives updates on people, stories. Just recently we had a chief come to Christ. You have met this.
Bring that up.
Didn't Aiden share?
Isaac did.
Oh, Isaac. Okay.
But yeah, we were in his home and shared the gospel on our last trip in October.
And he did not accept Christ at that time.
No.
I think it was the next team that went.
I believe it was in January. Yeah.
Pastor Jeremy was there for that, watched this chief accept Christ, which was amazing. I didn't even, at first I was like, are you sure?
Right. Yes.
So anyways, so that prayer text gives some updates on that. They can also, if people are interested in going, we send a lot of teams to Lesotho, for lots of reasons, but mostly because our short-term teams are the one continuing the work. So we want that gap in between trips to be short. So if people are interested in going to Lesotho, they can go. It's a pretty rugged field, as you know, so it's not for everybody, but people are welcome to do that, coming to the class. And then I think, again, being mobilized as an advocate for Lesotho. Many people have not heard of this country or don't know of the work that Ridgecrest is doing there. And so I'm really hoping that people not only can pray, but be a voice for the Lesotho people. Here.
So something, and we may come back to this a little bit, but something I keep hearing you say, or I'm kind of reading between the lines, this is not just for a class for people who may be interested in going to Lesotho.
No.
By all means, we want people to go to Lesotho, but this really is, it's so much more. It's hearing more about what we are doing and how we see God at work in Lesotho and how they can partner even from here. Yeah.
And I would say that we actually need, we have people going to Lesotho and we need people, but we need actually more people here praying and not just like, I'll pray for you guys on your trip. Yes. We need people interceding for that field long term. We believe that the work that God is doing will continue through the guidance of God's Spirit from the prayers of his people, right?
Absolutely.
So when people are praying for Lesotho, we need people to go, but those teams are often small, and sometimes we don't need a ton of people. What we need a ton of people for is standing here and praying for the Lesotho.
Yeah. That reminder of how much we do get to be a part of missions.
Yes.
When Sarah was on the podcast back early in this year, she talked a lot about partner care teams and the importance of that and how that really is a part of missions. It's such a huge part of being on stateside and praying for them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's see. You talked a little bit about being in Lesotho, and this I'm kind of throwing at you, but what drew your heart to Lesotho from the beginning?
Oh my, this is, I do not know how to answer this question in like 1 or 2 minutes.
Hey, that's okay. We still have 12.
Oh, great.
So
okay. Well, I can't take
share as much time as you'd like to take.
Oh my. So I became a believer when I was 19 years old. So I was in college. Okay. And a year or so after that, I'd been involved in my church, involved in some discipleship ministry, and a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go to Lesotho and visit. Our previous pastor was a missionary there, so that was my connection. Okay. So we went on this short-term trip. I loved it, and went back that summer for a month to help out with the ministry there. When I came back, I was really exploring the Journeyman program, which is a program for college graduates through the International Mission Board. It's totally funded by the IMB, and it was a great exposure for me to missions. But I don't know if you know this, I wasn't planning to go to Lesotho as a journeyman.
No, I didn't know that.
I was set to go to another country, and that ended up just falling through.
Okay.
And that same day or the day after, I can't remember, Jim and Teresa were their names, the missionaries in Lesotho, reached out and said, I don't know if you're interested still in the Journeyman program, but we just wrote a job. So that same day that all that stuff fell through, I was like, oh my goodness, yes. So and my story with Lesotho is like that. It seems like maybe my time in Lesotho has ended, and then the Lord does something different. So I'm not really answering your question.
No.
How has my heart been stirred for Lesotho?
No.
But I think it was just an interest at first, and the Lord just continued to direct my path that way. And when I came home from the field, after spending the 2 years there, I was kind of like, it was a hard term for me for a lot of reasons. Being away from home was hard.
Sure.
And so I just came home and started working here and was like, you know what, maybe, I don't know, we'll see, maybe long-term missions isn't for me. And I really wasn't planning to go back to Lesotho, but our pastor at the time started that partnership with Jim and Teresa, independent of me. And so I ended up going back for that. And then our pastor transitioned away from Ridgecrest. So the work was kind of in my hands. So it just seems like I haven't just pursued this over and over. The Lord has just directed my path there over and over.
And has continued to, I think of people like Micah, who was connected to Lesotho before Ridgecrest was. Absolutely. Like he'd been to Lesotho. We had, Pastor Luke Harding was on staff. Well, he had the similar connections to Lesotho. And so God has definitely kept Lesotho like at the forefront of ministry here at Ridgecrest.
He has. And not because of one person, like you said. It wasn't
lots of different avenues.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
God has a work for Ridgecrest to do in Lesotho. I just believe it with my whole heart. Yeah. And I should have known that a long time ago. But it's just all through this. I'm convinced that God is using Ridgecrest in Lesotho.
And we get to be a part of that even from here. I mean, my heart's desire is to go back to Lesotho, but that reminder how much I get to be a part of that ministry and the mission right here. Kelsey, I've so enjoyed this conversation. What else would you like to share just as we continue talking about Lesotho?
Sure. I think not just about Lesotho in general, or not just about Lesotho, but as missions in general. If people are unsure, or how do I find my place? How do I get involved? I feel like I would encourage them, missions is being involved in what God is doing around the world is like in a global context is just a part of a discipleship journey, right? God desires for us to be in the Word every day, seeking Him. I get a lot of times I get questions about like, I'm new to Ridgecrest. When can I go on my first mission trip? And I love that heart.
Right, absolutely.
But I would encourage people actually to start with for sure their time in the Word every day. That is the most important thing. And if people need to grow in that, that's their first place to grow.
Which we just recorded 2 episodes on spiritual habits. So
good.
If you missed those, go back and listen to those, because I think that is a great direction leading up to this. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I think that's where all of our spiritual growth starts, right? Is in the Word. Joining a small group. I think it seems like sometimes people are very excited to get involved in missions at Ridgecrest, but they're not plugged into a small group. They're not plugged into a life group. They're not growing in community. And that's super important. So I would encourage that for sure. Secondly, if you are thinking, what is my role in local evangelism? What is my role in global evangelism? I would encourage you, start by sharing the gospel with those around you, with your family, with your coworkers. And that's something that I am growing into. So I'm not speaking as an expert here. Philip and I are looking to share with our neighbors, and we have some unsaved family members. And so if we're not practiced in sharing the gospel here, we need to be good at practicing that as we go right to other people. I also think missionary biographies are a great place to start in stirring your heart for missions. There's something about reading a story of somebody who's spent time overseas or cross-culturally that is great. So The Insanity of God is a great book. I love Through Gates of Splendor. That's the story of Jim Elliot. C.T. Studd, his work, he has a biography, a biography that was written about him is a great one. So if you need some resources on missionary biographies, I would love to recommend some to you. There's so many.
And there's some great kids, children's books about missionaries too. And so, Colby, I'll get those to you to put in the notes. But there are some great ones. I know there's one on Jim Elliot. I just saw it at a conference this weekend. There's some really great resources to get our kids excited about missions too.
Yes. And I think starting reading those to kids, right? Stirring that love for the Lord from a young age is wonderful.
Yes. We talked so much about, collaborating and all of that. I love that we have such an emphasis on missions for our kids all the way down. Our little bitty toddlers are doing prayer walks on Wednesday nights, praying for missionaries and all the way through kids, but and through students in college. Absolutely. But I do think that's a huge piece. We get such an opportunity to pour into our kids' excitement for missions from a young age.
I love that you've emphasized that. And Sarah, who is on the podcast, both of you have been so great in that area. And Philip and I don't have kids yet. And so sometimes I'm not thinking through that, but I'm so thankful that we have people on staff who are mobilizing our kids and our students and our college kids as well. Or we have lots of opportunities to learn more about missions in the Springfield area, like Perspectives on the World Christians Movement. This great class. It happens once for sure in the spring, maybe in the fall too. We have missions trainings here at the church. Like there's so many ways to learn more. But for sure, the starting place is seeking the Lord every day, right? When we seek the Lord, God promises in Proverbs 3 and several other places that he will fulfill his purpose for us. He will make his path clear for us as we seek him. So anyways.
That's great. I also realized this is like a behind the scenes comment. I told you these are not always super polished. I said we just had spiritual habits. Those are actually coming. So we've recorded those. Sometimes we go out of order a little bit. So those are upcoming podcasts. So if you are interested in learning more about, building your quiet time and stuff, those actually have not been published, but those are coming. Stay tuned. So stay tuned. Those are coming real soon. Colby's like, oh man. So as we wrap up, tell us how we can be intentionally praying for Lesotho and just for missions in the upcoming months.
Absolutely. I would love to encourage people to pray for for national believers, the believers that we have there in the valley, to be raised up to reach their own people for Jesus. We're focusing our prayers right now on salvation in the valley and for discipleship and encouragement for those believers. Also, people can pray that those believers would start to gather together. We have, as you know, there's people that have been led to Christ through the valley, but sometimes they can be scattered. So having those people gather together to study God's word together, that's the beginnings of a church plant, right?
Absolutely.
I think also people could be praying that from Ridgecrest, God, whoever, maybe God would call somebody long-term from Ridgecrest to go and live in Lesotho, to work specifically in our valley. We don't have to have that necessarily, but I think I just feel like sometimes we've seen that the work is a little bit faster when there's somebody who can be on the ground doing the
course.
work
Yeah.
day in and day out. The work is happening through the national believers there
Absolutely.
now. So we don't want to take the place of those national believers, but having somebody there on the ground to encourage them daily, weekly, have Bible studies regularly, that would be great too. So people could pray for that. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's great. I was
Go
just going to say, we talked a little bit about the text. What are the instructions? How can someone get connected with that text group?
Yes, my email is on the website.
Okay.
And so people just email me and let me know, like, I'd like to join the daily Lesotho text, and I'll add them to the group on our database.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah,
I forgot.
because I love that. And after you've been there, I'm like, oh, I know that person. Like, that's really fun. But how much our hearts can be drawn to just those people by praying for them. Colby's letting us know he'll also put the link to that in the show notes. So someone can look in the show notes and find that link to subscribe to those prayer texts. So that's a great
and it'll
way.
just be my email.
Okay.
I don't know that there's, I don't know. Maybe I should ask Colby. He knows everything about technology.
But emailing you,
yes, emailing me would
request
be just
that.
fine. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay. Well, Kelsey, thank you so much for being here with us today. My heart is so with Lesotho, but I love getting to just talk about it and encourage others to just come alongside and partner with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayla. It's been great.
Thank you again for joining us today. We'll see you next time on